Thank you. Joining us now, the Executive Director of the Iranian Americans for Liberty, Brian Leib, with us. Brian, great to have you in-house. Just wanted to get your reaction to Lesley Stahl's interview with Ibrahim Raisi, the Iranian president. He was asked if the Holocaust took place. He said no, flatly.
I don't think that's a shocker that Raisi had these comments. He's the hand-picked successor to Ali Khamenei. This is the type of rhetoric that they have quite often. What we should be shocked and what we should be speaking out about is the fact that 60 Minutes and Lesley Stahl would give a platform to the butcher of Tehran. And Rick made the point earlier that just last week there was a woman that was beaten to death in the streets of Iran. Iranians are protesting all throughout the country right now. And of course,
for not wearing her hijab properly.
Correct. But Lesley Stahl would wear the hijab in Tehran with the interview with Raisi. How tone deaf is that?
One of the things that I have to point out, Lesley Stahl's hijab had her bangs and hair out front. This is the exact same reasoning why this young woman was killed, is she wasn't wearing her hijab properly. So the question goes, are we seeing this woke left culture within the media beginning to really apologize for the Iranian regime?
Well, of course. I mean, that's pretty obvious that we see the fact that 60 Minutes would give this type of floor and forum to this person. They knew what he was going to say, Rick, when they asked him about the Holocaust. They knew what he was going to say when they asked about Israel's right to exist. And did Lesley push back in any way, shape, or form? No, she went to the next question as she wasn't even fazed that this gentleman calls for the destruction of the only Jewish state.
Let me pause you on that, Brian, because this is it's troubling to hear that and then see a journalist, quote unquote, and Lesley Stahl, somebody who's certainly been around for a long time, with no pushback. So you've got the leader of Iran saying the Holocaust didn't happen. 6 million, and I think that's a conservative estimate, 6 million Jews were killed in the Second World War. And there's not a follow-up question. I get it's an uncomfortable interview setting, but how does that fly on CBS News?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's par for the course, though, when we're looking at the mainstream media and the way that they give cover, not just to the Biden administration, but to a lot of Biden administration allies. And dare I say that I think the Iranian regime is an ally at this point of the Biden administration. So perhaps that's why. I mean, of course. I mean, look what's happening. It's 2 years now of appeasement. And, you know, I've talked before and I've called President Biden President Appeasement. Maybe he's more like President Tweet, because all they tend to do when these things happen is Jake Sullivan will send out a tweet or Anthony Blinken will send out a strongly worded statement, but nothing in terms of actual sanctions and tangible things to push back against this regime. I mean,
Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman is known for, you know, being really weak. They call her "What do you want, Wendy?" Yeah. When she goes into negotiations, she gives away everything, and so she's one of the leaders on the Iran stuff. Look, their position, the Biden administration's position, would be: we're trying to keep the Europeans together. We're trying to have a unified policy, which sounds great, right? To be able to have the world having the same policy, but it requires American leadership. What would you say to the Biden administration, who just acquiesces to the Europeans, and clearly that's not working?
Well, I would say it's time to take our seat back at the leadership table and give up that kid seat on the side that they've relegated us to. We have certainly surrendered our leadership, not just with the Iran nuclear deal, but I think on a lot of other issues, to the Russians, the Europeans, the Chinese, and other countries. It's time for America, what should be the most powerful country in this nation, to take our leadership seat back and start projecting strength. I think people will start responding to that a lot more.
I think Jews in France and Jews in Germany have a really powerful voice, and they need to speak up.
Yeah,
amen.
That's a good point. Brian Leib, great having you in-house. We appreciate it. Appreciate the insight. Look forward to having you back soon.
A pleasure. Thank you very much.